I'm going to be reading chapters 71 through 78. Chapter 71, The Warm Kitchen. Tasting that cheese brought back the Besser's warm kitchen. The smell of freshly baked Parmesan bread, the salty snap of salami and cheese, the fluffy softness of a cheese souffle. There was always a treat in my bowl, and Jessie and Professor Besser were always there to wrap me in a blanket when it was cold, take me swimming when it was hot, dry my paws when it rained, and pull foxtails from my fur after a walk in the woods. How safe I had felt with them. Chapter 72, The Cheese Helped. When you're finished, you can let yourself out, said Metalhead. The garage door often misfires for no apparent reason. No one will think it unusual if it opens now. I felt a certain fondness for Metalhead right then. He had given us a gift. In case you were wondering what to give a dog and a mouse, a cheese sandwich is it. Then we all said our goodbyes. I was a little biased against metal dogs at that point, but I was opening my mind to the possibility that a bond between a real dog and a robot dog might be possible. I had come to respect Metalhead, maybe even like him. The cheese helped. Okay? It did. Chapter 73, Jimmy. We watched as Metalhead went in the house through the door at the front of the garage. He was sure of himself. And why shouldn't he be? Everything he'd said had turned out to be true. We were just packing up the rest of the cheese sandwiches when we heard a teenage boy shout, "What is that stupid dog toy doing out there? I thought you gave him away." "What dog?" "Oh, yeah, we did give him away. Months ago," a lady answered. Your dad took himself to the shelter. Why is he back?" "I have no idea." "Well, can you please take him? Ben is coming over after school, and he might bring Derek." "Derek, I can't have a toy dog following me around like I'm 5. "I know, sweetie." "Mom, my name is James, not Sweetie. Jimmy Pooh or Jammy Face or James. Do you understand?" "Right, James. I'm sorry. Here, take him." Okay. I've got a donation box in my trunk. I'll take him this afternoon." In her trunk? Uh-oh. Mouse and I drove behind the recycling bin. "Oh, how you loved that dog," Mom said. "Don't you remember how you would read to him for hours?" "Mom, hello. I'm in middle school." "I know, James. I got it. Turn him off, otherwise he'll find me." "He'll find you," Mom laughed. "Don't make fun of me," James shouted. "I'm not making fun of you, but he's going to find you. He's just a toy. He's not going to find you. He's just a toy. Now, eat your breakfast. You'll be late for school." We heard footsteps in the garage. I peeked out and saw a woman with a ponytail and squeaky yellow sneakers come through the door carrying Metalhead. She turned him over and flipped his off switch. Then she reached through the open driver's side window and clicked a button. The trunk popped open and she placed Metalhead inside. Then she covered the trunk with a whomp and walked away. Chapter 74. Out of our path. The garage and the house were quiet. Evidently, James had finished his breakfast and gone to school. The car was still in the garage and there was no sign of Mom. I considered hightailing it out of there, but I couldn't abandon Metalhead, especially since Mom had turned him off. I could never leave a dog defenseless like that, even if it was made of metal. He was part of our pack. One look at Mouse, and I knew he felt the same way. Chapter 75, The Dashboard. The first order of business was getting Metalhead out. Mom had reached through the window and pushed a button that released the trunk. But which button? I had been in the Besser's car 100 times before, but who noticed the location of a trunk release? Besides, their car was different from this one. Even so, I knew more than Mouse, who had never been in a car before. Mouse climbed up the tire and he tried to get a grip on the slippery metal of the door. He wedged his toes in the door crack and held on with flat palms. Slowly, He worked his way up to the handle. From there, he dove into the open window. Once he was in, I began explaining the dashboard. Each button has a dial. Each button and dial operates something, but I don't exactly know what. You'll have to experiment. Mouse started pushing buttons, twisting dials, and flipping switches. Nothing happened. Then, suddenly, the windshield wiper started up and the lights went on. Then, the horn blared. "Hide, quick," I shouted, diving behind the recycle bin. We waited a long time, but it was quiet. No one had heard us, so Mouse, who had slipped into the inside of the door pocket, climbed out and began pushing buttons again. Then, bingo, the trunk popped open. But just as it did, Mom flung open the door to the garage and peeked out. I dove behind the tire and held my breath. Mom trotted over to the car and turned the lights and windshield wipers off. "Very funny, James," she called out. "Now please go to school. I don't want to have another email that says, 'Your child has been tardy.'" She went around to the back, slammed the trunk closed, and stomped into the house. Chapter 76, The Trunk. We waited and waited until we were sure she was not coming back. Then Mouse popped the trunk again, crawled out the window, hopped onto the door handle, and slid the rest of the way down. I jumped up, resting one of my front paws on the bumper, and peered inside. The trunk was a tornado of tents, tarps, tennis rackets, and teddy bears. And there, in the middle of this mess, was a box marked donation. The metal head with metal head's hind end sticking out. Mouse scrambled up my leg to the back, then up my neck to my head. From there, he leapt up into the trunk and dug around until he found Metalhead's switch. He flipped it on and Metalhead's lights flashed blue and yellow. "Metalhead," I barked. He didn't answer, didn't move, didn't say a word. He had been damaged by the toss into the donation box. "Hey, Metalhead, hello?" I said. Still nothing, except his lights flickering blue and yellow. Chapter 77, E-Waste. I doubted I could jump into the trunk. Don't get me wrong, if I was in a three-legged race, I'd win paws down. My back legs are strong, and that's what propels a leap like that. But there wasn't much room in the garage for me to get a running start. I would have to pull myself up by one leg. I squirmed up and slid back down. Then I tried again, pushing off with my back legs, twisting myself forward. It wasn't pretty, but I somehow managed to wiggle into the trunk. I was panting hard as I crawled through the trunk junk to Metalhead. Mouse was there already. He was waving his arms all around, trying to get Metalhead's attention. "Hey, buddy," I looked at Metalhead in the eye. Mouse tapped him on one ear. "You don't want to get donated," I said. "They'll put you in the e-waste." He didn't answer, but his eyelids flickered. Robot dogs were afraid of e-waste. Nobody wants to be recycled. And then suddenly I understood what was going on. Metalhead had a heart, and it was broken. Chapter 78, The Boo-Hoo Speech. At least I knew what to do about a dog with a broken heart. I launched into my boo-hoo speech, which I had pretty much perfected after nearly a year in Dogtown. "Just because a human doesn't want you doesn't mean you aren't lovable," I said. "Save your breath," he whispered. So he could talk. That was good. "You have to get out of here, Metalhead." Mouse nodded vigorously. He pointed up to the garage door. "Just turn me off," Metalhead said. You'll get over this. I've had my heart broken and I've survived. You will too. Jimmy and I did everything together." His voice broke. "Yeah, but Jimmy's growing up. Why would you upgrade when the kid model is flawless?" Metalhead asked. "I don't know," I said, thinking about how perfect my Jessie was. "It hurts." He tapped his chest. "Right here." "That's your heart," I said. "What is the point of having one if it's an inferior design?" Metalhead said. "Love is complicated," I explained. Your boy loves you, but right now he's trying so hard to grow up, he has to pretend he doesn't. Metalhead nodded miserably. I embarrass him. He called me a toy. I'm sorry. You're always telling dogs to get over their boo-hoos. You have no real understanding of what it feels like. I swallowed past the knot in my throat. That's not true, I said. I didn't want to tell him my story, especially with Mouse jabbing my side with his tiny finger. Mouse wanted us out of there, and any second Jimmy's mom could come and drive us away. I saw his point, but what could I do? Metalhead wasn't going to budge, and I made him understand that he wasn't after a life that I made him understand that he would have a life after Jimmy. So I took a deep breath and began. I hope you enjoyed my reading. Thanks. Bye.